The Dakota Access Pipeline, an analysis through race history. Race history is studying past events through the lens of a particular racial group. Often historical events are only studied through the eyes of white men, and other races are pushed aside or do not have their viewpoint properly represented. To make sure that you're performing race history correctly, historians will need to include an explanation of cultural elements to help the readers and the audience gain a better understanding of the group being represented. I chose to cover my topic through race history because many people only saw this event through media and politicians. Many of the people were white men or white women who were speaking out, and the indigenous people themselves were not fully represented. The Dakota Access Pipeline is a pipeline that was proposed by the Dakota Access LLC, who applied for a permit to construct the pipeline in North Dakota. Their goal was to create and operate a pipeline measuring 1,168 miles that would reach all the way down to Illinois, taking crude oil. In order to get the pipeline, the Dakota Access Company applied for their permit to the Army Corps of Engineers, and it was granted. However, it didn't take long before they ran into issues. The issues were going to land with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. This tribe had been granted lands in North Dakota with a treaty in 1868, the Sioux Nation Treaty. And through this, their sovereign nation, their reservation lands, were theirs to uphold, and they could perform their ceremonies and have this land to themselves without the United States government interfering. However, because the land does still technically apply to the United States does have some jurisdiction in this area. The tribe decided to explain their issues with the pipeline. The first one was the water issue. There was a threat to clean water in the future if any oil spills were to happen. The tribe at the time only had one reservoir that they could get water from, and the pipeline would be going over it. And if there was any type of spill or leak, it would affect their water supply, and they would have no clean water for the tribe. Anna Lee, a younger member of the tribe, wrote a letter to beg for the pipeline to be stopped to save their homeland. The name of her letter was Water is Life, and it became a representation for the entire tribe throughout this movement. The other issue that the tribe had with the pipeline were the issues of sacred sites. These sites for them have been passed down from generation to generation. They're burial grounds and ceremony grounds, which they also believed were to be covered under the National Historic Preservation Act. One of the tribal leaders of another tribe who had came to help the Sioux argue for their lands and argue against the pipeline stated, "We fail to appreciate and honor our sacred sites, ripping out the minerals and gifts that they lay underneath them," meaning that the people did not care about what was going on in the history and the religious importance to the people. So in order to try to stop the pipeline, the tribe did go ahead and go through legal action to try to sue the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Once again, their reasoning was that it violated the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. The goal was to have natives preserve historic sites and burial grounds in particular from being disturbed. And they said through this act that the United States was actually breaking a contract with them. However, they were not heard, and they began to protest. And when they began to protest, other tribal nations came to their aid and began to try to help them fight for their rights and help them fight to have the pipeline moved. While the United States Army Corps of Engineers did listen, they took them over 100 different moves to try to recreate a destination for this pipeline. Only 14 of those were ideas that came from the natives themselves.